Good morning, delegates. It was very late night, and I would like to begin this morning with the adoption of the, I'm sorry. Yes, we have a number of L documents that were posted to this final session of SBSTTA-25. As you can see, we have a number of documents. Let me remind you that we went through the draft recommendations paragraph by paragraphs and approved the CRP's documents. With the exception of one on climate change when we went until very late. Therefore, I hope that today we can quickly adopt these L documents. So interventions should focus only on ensuring that L documents are faithful to our approval yesterday. Delegations should avoid reopening agreed texts or introduce new issues at this stage. I count with your support on this regard, unless you have some magical solutions to remove some of the brackets. If there's already agreed, we can do this quickly. Still many business, and also we should go back to the pending document CRP 8, where a small group was also working to look for some good solutions. So with that understanding, we will begin with document L2 on plant conservation. So I submit for adoption document L2 on plant conservation. I don't see any requests from the floor. So document 2, Japan, you have the floor. Microphone to Japan, please. Technicians, please. Microphone to Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the annex to the L2 on item 3B, 3D, Japan understands that there was no in-depth discussion on the annex of the document as a part of the voluntary complementary actions for the target 13. A description related to digital sequence information has been included. Since the mechanism for benefit sharing from the use of DSI on genetic resources is currently under negotiation for COP16, Japan believes no language should be agreed on DSI to prejudge the outcome of the discussion. Therefore, Japan would like to express our interest to reserve the right to propose relevant changes in the future meetings according to the progress of the negotiation. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. So we note your comment about it and the right you have to further discuss this point when this is also going to the Conference of the Parties. That will be the place to do it. Thank you. I see no more requests from the floor. Austria.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair, I do apologize. I just came from a meeting where I had a Madam Chair, so apologies. Many thanks for giving me the floor. On this document, L document on the plant conservation. We were very happy with the document that has been prepared for this subsidiary by the Secretariat. That is why we, in the first session where we took up this document, had no interventions because we did support the document. When we came to the discussion of the CRP document, we were taken by surprise that the improvement went so quickly, and also because we could see on the screen that some parties have asked for the floor on this CRP document on the plant conservation. We have a concern actually with the new complementary action on target 17, and therefore we would appreciate if that complementary action would be put in brackets to allow us more discussion on that, because we feel that we really need more discussion on that. I definitely do not want to stop our very successful deliberations here, but simply put that complementary action in brackets, the complementary action on target 17. Thank you very much.
Austria. So you got 2 points. One regarding the approval. At least at that moment in my screen didn't appear request from the floor when I approved it. I know there were some technical difficulties. In that sense, I apologize, but not because I didn't see that it was a request from the floor. I also comment that with some other delegations that it was clear. And but regarding your request for that specific target 17, I invite you to follow the same approach as Japan. So you reserve the right to go back when we discuss this at the COP, and not to open the document and to make any amendments at all if it's not to release any bracket. So so you have the right to do that, and you can do that when we discuss at the conference of the parties, and not to add any bracket so far. I hope I can, with your support, Austria.
Thank you very much, Chair. We will consider that, but before that, I would also want to listen to other colleagues, to other parties in the room on that issue. Thank you.
I'll give the floor to Brazil, followed by Argentina and Sweden.
Thank you, Chair. And honestly, it is really disappointing to hear the statements made by Japan and Austria. We have been revising this document for quite a while now. I recall that we had extensive discussions in the previous substa. We recall that when we presented the CRP yesterday, there was no opposition to the approval of the CRP as it stands. So it's a matter of concern that now we're trying to revisit the document and reopen it. We're not in a position to accept this. We do notice that there are many developing countries that have small delegations. Sometimes they only have one negotiator, and even so, they struggle and manage to follow many discussions at the same time. So we honestly fail to understand why some countries now are trying to reopen the annex. We are not in a position to accept new brackets to the annex, and we feel that, first of all, the reference to DSI is fully consistent with Target 13, which we agreed upon in COP15, and we believe that also the proposal for Target 17 is consistent with the Target 17. So we're encouraged not to reopen the annex. We will not be able to accept this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brazil. And yes, I joined your statement for not to open a document. These are voluntary complementary actions. I remind you that it went to a peer review process. It's a long way, and you still have the right at the COP to make modifications. So I kindly invite you to not to insert any new brackets at this stage. Argentina, followed by Sweden and Egypt.
Gracias.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the floor. We would like to echo the comments made by you and support as well the statement just made by Brazil. We understand that this document has had sufficient revision during this meeting, and there were no observations presented at the end. And therefore, as we look at this first L document in this session, we do not wish to begin by setting out a precedent that during this meeting we will still continue to open L documents. This L document and the other L documents, we hope that we will respect what was agreed as we approved the CRPs. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Argentina.
Thank you very much, Argentina. I invite you to have a collaborative spirit. There's been so much work over the last few months, and we have gone through many different versions of these documents. Perhaps they're not perfect. It's difficult to come to an agreement with so many different countries, with so many different concerns, but I believe that there are important elements here. These are voluntary actions that are being suggested to improve the implementation of the Convention on Biological Diversity. And since they're voluntary and since they're within the capacities of each party, I suggest that we continue to adopt these documents. I will continue to allow you to take the floor as we go through these documents. I have Sweden and certain other parties, and I hope that we will be able to conclude our discussion on this document as soon as possible. Sweden, followed by Egypt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We really would like to start in a good spirit, and we appreciate this document, most parts of it, and we appreciate the hard work that was done on it. We realized that Action 17 was introduced really late, not during the review process. It appeared here in plenary. It wasn't there before. It wasn't in the working document. We were one of the countries who actually asked for the floor, but we were kind of voted down by acclamation. I realized that there were other parties that asked for the floor on that item. We don't want to destroy the good spirit here, but we have issues with the content. We were prepared to engage in a discussion of it. We didn't have the time for it. So I seek your advice how to proceed with those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Sweden. As I said before, you have the right to, as Japan proposed, to do this at the COP. So it's still an opportunity. This is a recommendation to the COP, so we can have an opportunity there. Meanwhile, I invite parties as soon as possible to start implementing these actions for the sake of plants in the planet. So let's be positive. Egypt, followed by Indonesia and Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Egypt supports statement given by Brazil. I'm the only one from Egypt who has to deal with all of these issues, and it's very, very difficult. But certainly, we agree with your concern, and maybe a compromise way is that in the report of the meeting, we can make a reference to this, whether it's Japan or Austria or whoever. And this will be another, taken into consideration at COP. They can say whatever they like. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Egypt. I think this is a very good proposal. I invite Japan and Austria, Sweden, if they wish so, to provide language to be included in the report. So there's a record of this, and you can then reserve your right to do it at the COP. Indonesia, followed by Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia would like to express the concerns and would like to echo our colleagues from Brazil that we are also concerned with the statement made by Japan, since we already had many discussions on this issue, and the DSI is already stated also on the target that we agree upon in COP15. Thank you, Chair.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih kembali.
So I have here, a request from Brazil. Can we proceed to the adoption of the document? I think we are going in the line and the spirit to approve this document. We know there will be room to continue. We can record your concerns. So I would like to invite the plenary to adopt document L2. I see Brazil, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Of course, we will be glad to adopt the document, but we will not be in a position to accept comments expressing concerns with specific points in the report, because this would set a bad precedent for the future work of the convention. I don't think it has been the usual practice to include specific comments from contracting parties saying that they would like to somehow dissociate from specific elements of the document, as if the document has not undergone through an inclusive discussion, because this was proposed in written comments. This was discussed in the plenary. If countries had any concern whatsoever, they should have raised in the plenary. So we honestly do not feel comfortable with including comments within the report, because this would simply suggest that the work we've done here was not inclusive and was not consistent with the rules of procedure. So we would, of course, we are eager to adopt this document, but we would not like to accept specific comments expressing concerns or caution in the report, because this would set a bad precedent for the future work of the convention. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Japan followed by Austria.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And let me clarify our intention first. So it is not our intention to reopen or to change, modify, and block this great document. It is only to share our interest to reserve our rights to make any changes according to the ongoing discussion on DSI. And I really appreciate the proposal from Egypt, but also we understand the concern raised by Brazil. So I'd like to mention that if it is noted as our interest to make any proposal at COP, we don't need any addition to change the document. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japan. And I invite parties to follow the same approach as Japan, to reserve your right to continue deliberation on this at the COP. Please, Austria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We regret that we had no opportunity to discuss the annex as included in the CRP document. It was approved without any discussion. And actually the complementary action to target 17 has been put forward during this subster. So it has not been part of the review process of this document. So it's something very new where we had no opportunity to discuss in this meeting. Therefore, and it's practice in these meetings that if there is a party that has a problem with a certain proposal where we can't find a compromise, that it's bracketed. That's common practice in this process. And it's also common practice that when a party has an objection and asks to put that objection to the report, that it's the right of the party to do that. We still have a problem with this part, but in the spirit of a compromise, we would like to ask to put our concern to the report of the meeting on this target 17. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Austria. Now I'll give the floor to Argentina and Brazil.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. And as we have said before, we regret the fact that what was approved in plenary in the CRP has now been brought into question. It's also standard practice that delegations have the right to register with the name of the delegation, their concerns, and that can feature in the report. Thank you very much.
Es correcto, Argentina.
That's correct, Argentina. Thank you. Oh, I invite you to move forwards in approving and adopting document. You do have the right to express any concerns, of course. The Secretary, I believe, would like to take the floor. No, it says it here, but...
Yeah, then your support, and I would like to submit document L2 for adoption. I see no request, no objection. document L2 on plan conservation is adopted. Now let's proceed in numerical order. This is with document L3, review of findings from the methodological assessment report on the diverse values and valuation of nature of IPBES and their implications for the work undertaken under the convention. Dear colleagues, I propose that we proceed to L3, which concerns the review. This document was discussed during the afternoon session on Tuesday, the 17th, and we made significant progress. The main outstanding issue relates to the brackets around paragraph 3 on whether to use welcomes or endorses in reference to key messages contained in the summary for policymakers of the values assessment. Additionally, I would like to clarify that in paragraph 7, subparagraph D should be present as an alternative to subparagraph 7C rather than a new subparagraph. This is something editorial. So with this clarification, I would like to submit document L3 for adoption. I see two requests, one from Spain, followed by Brazil.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Chair. In the first paragraph, we see that there are still some brackets. We would like to take the clean text that we have in terms of topic 5 of invasive species, and our proposal would be in line with the L on invasive species, which is clean for the paragraph which refers to the IPBES report, to eliminate the reference to with appreciation that's in brackets,
Eliminar
and also delete the issuance of. So the sentence would be welcome.
methodological assessment. Damos la bienvenida.
So welcomes the methodological assessment. And then also in line with the clean text that we have in the invasive species text, eliminate the brackets in the third line around and its key messages. With that, and referring to that clean text we already have on invasive species, then we would also have a clean text without brackets for paragraph 1 here. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Spain. As I said, if there are attempts to remove brackets, we can consider them. So you're proposing welcomes the methodological assessment report and its key messages. So to delete with appreciation of the issuance of, and to add in key messages. That's the tangible proposal. I have requests for the floor from Brazil, Argentina, and Chile. But I would like to know whether anyone opposes the proposal made by Spain. I see Argentina requesting the floor. 1 second. Brazil.
Doy la palabra.
Thank you, Chair. We'll just flag that, as you mentioned, from our recollection of the discussions, 7D was actually a 7C alt, and I understand that both then 7C and 7C alt would remain in brackets for further consideration, given the fact that during the discussions we expressed concern with regards to the original paragraph 7C, which starts with reform policies and institutions, and we had suggested an alternate phrasing which now referred to as 7D, but it should be rephrased as 7C alt, and we understand that both of them should remain in brackets. Regarding the proposal from Spain, building on the discussions we had, the issue is how we would then deal with paragraph 3, which refers to the key messages as endorses or welcomes. From our perspective, if we are to accept the proposal from Spain in paragraph 1, then we would delete paragraph 3, because then we would be already addressing the key messages in paragraph 1. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we need to go part by part. Let's first resolve. Yeah, we initially mentioned the editorial change as advised by the Secretariat, indicating that 7D is 7 alt C, but the precision from Brazil that both should be in brackets because we're not agreed, right? That is reflecting what we have in our deliberations. Now, let's go back to paragraph 1 with the suggestions from Spain to have a clean text, welcoming the assessment report and its key messages. And that if we accept these amendments, Brazil indicates there is no need for paragraph 3 because we are including the key messages. However, is the issue between welcomes and endorses. That's where we are. So, and when I ask if the amendments on paragraph 1 are acceptable, I saw Argentina raising their hand and now asking for the floor. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, we would like to thank Spain for their proposal, which is done in the spirit of compromise. We think it's very constructive and reflects our discussions yesterday. Nevertheless, this proposal would only be acceptable for Argentina if it's accepted with also the elimination of paragraph 3 as a whole. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Argentina. So therefore, there is a proposal to accept the amendments to paragraph 1 and delete paragraph 3. Does anybody oppose this proposal? I see Belgium. No, I give the floor to Chile, followed by Egypt, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like just a clarification. If we keep with the Spain proposal, that would delete the with appreciation, right? That's one thing. And the other, we will keep with the next brackets and its key messages. That was the proposal for Spain?
Mantener el texto.
So eliminating the brackets and keeping the text. So welcomes also the key messages.
The first paragraph as it is, as the proposal that was made by Spain, we could agree deleting the paragraph 3. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Muchas gracias, Chile.
Thank you, Chile. Egypt, followed by Belgium.
We also agree to delete the brackets.
And what about paragraph 3? Egypt.
I think when we come to it, we can, as you said, let us go paragraph by paragraph, and then when we come to 6, that will be a different story. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Egypt, but the proposal is a package between paragraphs 1 and 3. Egypt.
I am in favor of keeping paragraph 3, actually, and remove the brackets as well. You don't need to say endorse. Welcome straight away. Thank you.
Thank you. Belgium, followed by Russian Federation and Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our recollection of this discussion is indeed that this was a quite tedious discussion where we spent quite a bit of time. And we, at this time, are not ready to lift the brackets in paragraph 1 and lift the brackets in paragraph 3. We prefer still to have a statement endorsing the key messages and the summary for policymakers of the assessment. The only suggestion with which we can agree is, from Spain, is the deletion of the words "the issuance of," which we feel is unnecessary and is even confusing. But we understand that this issue of the way this assessment is accepted is a rather a political decision rather than a technical scientific, and we prefer to keep that for COP. Thank you.
Thank you, Belgium. I hope there is no opposition to just delete the words "the issuance of," because there is no reason to have it. Anybody opposing to eliminate those words? I don't see any opposition. And honestly, I see that the proposal is a package. If we don't go any further, we should retain brackets in paragraph 1 and paragraph 3. I do thank you for the intent, but I give the floor to a few of you. Please do not, if we don't go any further, we can save our time. Russian Federation, followed by Mexico.
Thank you, Chair. We like to have a clean one. We agree with the suggestion also to delete the issuance, but we like clean one, and in this case we support those parties who think we don't need paragraph 3 and delete paragraph 3. Thank you.
Since there are parties who want to keep paragraph 3, we should keep them in brackets and also the brackets in paragraph 1. Sudan, followed by Sweden.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. السودان أيضا.
Thank you, Chair. We also would like to keep welcomes, and we support deletion of paragraph 3. Thank you.
Sweden, last word. We need to move on.
Thank you. We echo Belgium because the paragraph 3, as we have it here, is slang which we have used for other EBS.
Thank you, Sudan.
Thank
you, Sweden. So we will not solve these paragraphs. So let's keep the brackets on paragraph 1, just deleting the issuance of, and let's keep paragraph 3 with brackets. We need to move on because we have many documents. Please help me. And I'm wondering if there are more comments on different parts of the document, or if we can approve document L3. South Africa, you have the floor. I hope it's not to go back to 1 or 3 paragraphs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just a question for clarity purposes. As I've followed discussion on other assessment, the formulation for para 1 still reflect approved by plenary of the intergovernmental, which is the text that was agreed that it will be removed in all the assessment when it comes to the recommendations. Thank you.
Still the text as it is. It's just welcomes and brackets on with appreciation, and we are deleting the issuance of the issuance of, and continue with methodological assessment, and still brackets around key messages, and keep the text approved by the plenary of IBES in 9th session. So remain like that. And so I see no more requests from the floor. Okay, so this, I would like to submit the adoption of document L3 as amended. I see no objections, so document L3 is adopted. Now let's move to consider document L4 on alien invasive species. Before I open the floor, I would like to mention that this document has brackets on paragraphs 1, 6, 7, 10C, 10G, 11A, so paragraph 6, and 11B, little Roman 2. Also, as mentioned yesterday during our consideration of the CRP, the contact group considered the term global change and the different ways its meaning is understood after it was raised by some delegations. After some discussion, the contact group agreed on revised language that replaced the concept of global change with drivers of biodiversity loss in Annex 3. As a result, it was agreed that changes will be made to all references to global change in the annex. Therefore, document L4 now reflects this change and includes the concept of drivers of biodiversity loss. This has been reflected in paragraph 8 of document L4. With this, I submit for adoption document L4. Can we adopt this recommendation? I see, veo España, que tiene la palabra, seguido de Chile.
España, followed by Chile, please. Thank you very much, Chair. On paragraph 9C, there were some brackets which remained from yesterday when we were reviewing the CRP. We worked with Brazil, who we thank for their collaboration to reach a consensus text. We sent this to Secretariat before the start of plenary, so perhaps the Secretariat could read this out. And that was sent by both delegations in order to eliminate the brackets which featured in 9C. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, España.
Thank you, Spain. And thanks also to Brazil for working to try and delete those brackets. And the only, as I've said, the only time people can take the floor to reopen these Ls is to eliminate brackets, I hope. So, Secretariat, please read out 9C, please.
Sorry. Paragraph 9C with the amendments will read, to develop and strengthen existing national regulatory instruments to reduce the movement and introduction of invasive alien species, which may be complemented, when appropriate, through the use of relevant voluntary guidance, and the paragraph continues.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. I would like to see if we can agree with this change in order to eliminate brackets in this paragraph. Is there any opposition? Please raise your hand. I don't see any hand. Thank you very much. So this paragraph is amended. Now I give the floor to Chile, followed by Belgium and Argentina.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to see if we can solve the paragraph 6 related with the Global Biodiversity Information Facility that was pending yesterday, along with the other one that I don't remember really well, but there were two related with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do you have any concrete proposal, Chile, for this paragraph, or can I ask Argentina, because you were consulting Capital about this paragraph, so I'll give the floor to Argentina.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Chair. Following the discussions yesterday, and based on consultations following those discussions, the membership of the working group referred to in paragraph 6 has not yet been established. In this regard, we propose an alternative text as a potential compromise in order to reflect what is the spirit of the paragraph. The proposed text is as follows.
Takes note with appreciation the efforts of the Global Biodiversity Information Facility to improve access to data and information on invasive alien species. Argentina espera que esta solución
Argentina hopes that this solution will be acceptable for the honourable delegations present. Thank you. Thank you, Argentina, for the proposal. The proposal is to keep the reference to GBIF and the work that they carry out on invasive species. Would any delegation oppose the amendment proposed by Argentina? If you do, please raise your hand. I don't see any hands.
This paragraph is amended. Thank you very much for your cooperation, Argentina. Now I'll give the floor to Belgium, followed by UK, and then Argentina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, on my recollections of our discussions on this document, I seem to remember that a new paragraph was introduced by, if I'm not mistaken, Japan and supported by Belgium to have the same sort of wording as we just discussed in the values L document on endorsing the key messages. Now, I remember that, again, we had the same type of discussion as with the previous L document, but I do not recollect that we agreed to delete the suggested new paragraph by Japan, supported by Belgium, asking for the endorsement of the key messages. And I see that this paragraph is not here, so I would love to see it reinstated. Thank you.
Let me ask the Secretary. I will give the floor to the Secretariat for you to know the recollection about this paragraph.
Thank you, Chair. The way this L document was prepared was to reflect the entire discussion. We certainly remember the proposal by Japan, but our recollection is that it was not agreed, but then it was at the end finalized in the way that is reflected in the L document. That was the recollection of the Secretariat. Thank you.
Belgium. So that's why we don't see that paragraph. Belgium. So I hope. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Secretariat. I must confess that my recollection is that we did not decide to delete the paragraph. It was put between brackets, and there was indeed a long discussion, especially on the first paragraph, along the same lines as we discussed on the CRP on the values assessment. So these two discussions went in very parallel, but I do not remember that we actually decided to delete this new paragraph by Japan. Thank you. But I'm of course ready to listen to other countries, because at my age, my recollection may not be perfect.
Yeah, if that was a mistake on the recollection of what happened during discussions, I really don't remember exactly also. There were too many paragraphs. I sleep with paragraphs. And if it was not an agreement to delete it, so you have the right to put back that paragraph with brackets. So I will ask Secretary to do that in this understanding. Now I'll give the floor to Argentina, followed by Japan and Chile. Let's move on, colleagues.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the floor once again. With regard to paragraph 10 and paragraph 5, in line with our previous statement and the consensus that we had come to on paragraph 6, we would like to suggest that we delete the reference, the explicit reference to the working group, and leaving the rest of the sentence, paragraph as it is.
With the relevant sectors such as tourism and trade and the Global Biodiversity Information Facility to improve access to data and information on invasive alien species. Argentina espera que esta solución.
Argentina hopes that this will be a useful outcome for the other parties. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, Argentina. And so we will be deleting more brackets without making reference to the other point. I'm recognizing the work of GBF. I hope that this will be acceptable to all. If there's anyone who is opposed to deleting the brackets to this amendment, I see Chile, France, who are against this. Or perhaps I should listen to what they want to say. No, they are opposing the brackets. Yes, mentioning the work of GBF, but I will give the floor now to Japan, followed by Chile, then France.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Yes, we have the same reflection with Belgian delegation, and for the purpose of maintaining consistency with our discussion, the previous agenda on value assessment, again, Japan would like to have the third paragraph, which we proposed yesterday, that is about the endorsement of key messages. Thank you.
Yeah, that was the reference made by Belgium. We said that we will put back with brackets. That's just to confirm that. Now I'll give the floor to Chile, followed by France. I think this is regarding paragraph 10, Roman 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I was mistaken. I would like to, if I'm correct, Chile agrees with just deleting the task force of the Global Biodiversity Information of the paragraph 10.5. So if that's the option, we agree. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chile. That was a proposal from Argentina. France.
Thank you, Chair. France does not agree with deleting the mention to the task force. In our opinion, GBIF is already providing data on biodiversity and on invasive alien species. The aim of this task force is to link and to foster interoperability with the different databases. So the interest here is rather the task force than the GBIF in itself. So we are sorry for that, but...
France, I'm sorry for interrupt you, but this is a way forward to have a clean text. Otherwise, we will have this in brackets. I mean, this is to strengthen collaboration with the relevant sectors, such as tourism and trade, and the GBIF, to improve access to data. I mean, if you insist to have the mention of the task force, which is a difficulty for some party, then we will not have that paragraph. So I ask you for flexibility in order to have a clean text and also to recognize the contribution of GBIF. Can you go along with this proposal as amended by Argentina?
Okay, sorry.
I see you still in consultation. Meanwhile, I give the floor to Uruguay and Switzerland. We
Okay,
still have many documents.
Chair,
France.
yes, we accept that for the moment.
Thank you for, it's not for the moment, it's for the adoption of the document. Thank you, France. Merci beaucoup. Now, Uruguay and Switzerland, and I hope we can proceed with the adoption of the document. Uruguay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I simply would like to support the proposal made by Argentina, particularly because we understand that in order to strengthen collaboration and improving access, thank you so much, says the chair. Not only is it necessary to work in different tasks, but also to work with other teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Uruguay. So with these amendments, if there are no more comments for the paragraphs, I would like to submit the adoption of document L4 on invasive alien species. I see no objections. Then document L4 is adopted. Now let's proceed with document L5 on approaches to identifying scientific and technical needs to support the implementation of the framework, including its implication on the programs of work of the Convention. This is a short document. Before I open the floor, I would like to remind you that we agreed to leave document L5 with brackets to be solved by the COP in paragraphs 3, C, and 5. Therefore, document L5 reflects this agreement, so I submit for adoption document L5. Brazil followed by Canada.
Thank you, Chair. And regarding document L5, we draw attention to paragraph 2D, which starts with on the basis, on the analysis. We do understand that we had some discussions about the subparagraph yesterday, building on the proposals that were presented by Canada and Brazil. We think that the phrasing that has been presented does not capture accurately the discussions we had. So the first two lines from our perspective will need to be rephrased as follows. On the basis of the analysis carried out in subparagraphs A, B, and C above, comma, prepare technical advice, comma, including, comma, if appropriate, comma, recommendations, comma, and then moving to the last line, which starts with such guidance, we would suggest replacing it with such advice may include the need for new guidance and tools to address gaps or updates as needed. So we understand that this would be more accurate and more faithful to the discussions we had yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. Canada?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And indeed, we noted there was a couple of editorial things that perhaps weren't captured exactly as we presented them. So I think we can help the distinguished colleague from Brazil by reflecting exactly what we proposed. I have it here in the screen in front of me. I presented it yesterday, and it doesn't concur exactly with his recollection, but it's pretty similar. So what we noted is in the third line, when it says undertaken under the convention, comma, including, it should say including, but not limited to the multi-year program of work. So the but not limited to, we specifically stated that, and we didn't hear any disagreement in the room. Then on the 6th line, where it says, in the end of the 5th line, where it says for consideration by the Substa at its 26th meeting, here in this text it says or the subsidiary body. Our proposal was and that's because it could go to both depending on the situation. So we did not propose to say or, we proposed to say and. So factually that was what was proposed and we didn't hear any opposition. And then lastly, in that second last line, it was not our proposal to say, as Brazil suggested, the advice. This language, the only change that we have was just a grammatical one. We had suggested such guidance may include new guidance and tools. We didn't say the new guidance and tools. So those were the changes that we noted that differed from what we presented. Thank you.
So far, getting all both proposed amendments, perhaps I could say, on the basis of the analysis carried out in some paragraphs to see above, prepare technical advice, including if appropriate. This is Brazil recommendations, comma, for the adjustment of work undertaken in the convention, including but not limited to the MIPO, programs of work of the convention, and it continues until Substa and SBI. And then there's a difference of opinions between guidance or advice may include the need for new guidance. So it seems to me that all suggestions can fit to make sense, and the only the difference is on the initial part of the last line between advice or guidance. I need your guidance. So I give the floor. I have DRC and then Brazil.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the floor, and thank you so much for this document. There is something that we raised, but which was not perhaps included here, which is that under paragraph 2b, that is,
and then if you're referring to a different one, we can go later. Brazil, on this.
Thank you, Chair. And well, we had suggested to replace guidance with advice because I understand that now the first two lines of paragraph D would read as prepare technical advice. So the information on the potential inclusion of the need for new guidance and tools would be included in this technical advice that the Secretariat would prepare. So that is why we had suggested to replace, because when we had such guidance, we don't see a previous guidance that this would refer to. So just maintain the coherence within the paragraph. Thank you.
Thank you for the rationale, Brazil. So Canada, can we go along with this? Because immediately it says may include need for new guidance. Thank you. I see you noting. So with these amendments, I guess there's an agreement to amend in this way paragraph 2D. Now we'll go back to DRC on another part of paragraph 2.
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you so much. I would just like to come back to paragraph 2, subparagraph B, the second line. We had requested the addition of women and youth, and the same goes for paragraph 4 in the first line. After we speak about indigenous peoples and local communities, we also wish to have an express mention of women and youth. We do not see that there. We would like to see it included. Thank you.
Thank you. that will be included. So with this, I would like to submit paragraph L5 as amended, but I see Canada. No. So can we adopt paragraph L5 as amended? Canada again?
Apologies, Mr. Chair. I was just a little bit confused your explanation at the beginning about the text that is in brackets. So we have text in brackets still in the LDoc in 2C and in 4. And so the question is, this is a recommendation for Substa. It's not a COP. So what are we doing with the text that is in brackets? We can't adopt it with brackets. Thank you.
You're totally right. I'm sorry. I feel the pressure of the many documents on agenda items that's still pending. But certainly we cannot approve nothing in brackets because this is not a draft recommendation to the COP. This is Substa. And if there is no agreement on this text, then it has to be removed because there is no agreement. You see, there is no chance for somebody else or another body to work on it. So we have two paragraphs with brackets as in 3C. What we have in brackets is expression is with a view to addressing those gaps and potential needs for updates. So the whole phrase says, identify gaps and redundancies to support the implementation of the goals or targets of the framework in line with the demands of the Convention for consideration of SBI. No, for Substam, at this next meeting, which really is overwhelmed, with a view to addressing those gaps and potential needs for updates. So I will try once. Can we remove the brackets and maintain the language? Is any opposition to delete the brackets and to keep all text clean? If there's any opposition, please raise your hands. I see no hands. Thank you very much. So we leave the brackets and keep the text. So we have this paragraph clean. Thank you so much. And the remaining bracket is on 4, where it says invites parties, other governments, indigenous peoples, and local communities, women and youth, and then biodiversity-related conventions, the other Rio conventions, and other relevant multilateral agreements. This is a part. This is one part, and relevant intergovernmental organizations and stakeholders to submit views on requests, inputs, and suggestions. So I need your help to lift the brackets, or to have language, or to delete if there's no agreement. I see for your guidance. I see DRC followed by Argentina.
Merci.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor. The question that was asked here was to know whether Substa does have a mandate to invite the other Rio conventions and other multilateral environment agreements. I believe that this goes beyond the Substa mandate, and therefore we suggested that this part be deleted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Part of the explanation I received from the Secretary is we're not mandating, it's just an invitation. You have the right to say yes or not. So it's quite soft language, and it's a positive language to work with other bodies. Argentina, followed by Brazil.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Given that in the paragraph, the reference to relevant intergovernmental organizations is there, we believe that we could lift the brackets with regard to biodiversity-related conventions and other Rio conventions, etc., because it is simply to signal them specifically, to refer to them specifically with regard to requests, inputs, and suggestions. Our suggestion is to delete that text. It would seem to us that it limits the appeal, and if we take it out, then it would still be entirely relevant and adequate. So we would like to suggest that we maintain the text within the first brackets and delete the text within the second. Thank you very much, Argentina. I think that's an excellent proposal. It is an invitation, after all, to collaborate, and taking out that text which limits and refers to observations on requests and inputs and suggestions, and submitting suggestions on our program of work. It bears in its potential contribution, I think, for the CBD. I think that's a very good way of inviting such collaboration. Can we accept the proposal just made by Argentina to eliminate the brackets on the first section in brackets and to delete the brackets and the text within it for the second set of brackets?
Then is agreed to amend, so we have now clean text in all paragraphs of document L5. I see Japan requesting for the floor. I hope we can adopt, but you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a very minor point. In paragraph 3, in line 3, I can see paragraph 3 within paragraph 3. So I'm afraid this is a typo, or maybe this should refer to paragraph 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japan. Arigato. So we have a clean text, and I submit document L5 amended for adoption, as amended for adoption. I see no requests, no objections. Then document L5 is adopted.
I want the floor. I want the floor.
I'll give the floor to the Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I didn't want to interfere in the adoption of this document. I note that in the CRP yesterday there was a request to, there was a reference to this being subject to the availability of resources, which was deleted. I just want to note that, of course, the Secretariat will do its utmost to implement this request. I will just note that it, of course, involves a lot of work, which goes, which is within the spirit of paragraph 8 of decision 15.4, but goes beyond the specific request from the Conference of the Parties in paragraph 9 of 15.4. We note there's the need to do a lot of work in a short period of time. Of course, we will do our best to fulfill this request, and we will also assess the resources required, and we may be seeking additional resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. It's really a big task what we're asking to the Secretariat to do, to make a revision of all these programs of work, and not only the thematic ones. We discussed this also during the Bureau meeting. I mean, and with the addition of all cross-cutting issues, it's like 20 programs more. And for many of them, there is no even a professional dealing with those, because there are some other priorities. When we focused the whole convention in 2010 to work on Aichi targets, it was a different approach. And now to go back and it's like to reinvent the whole convention. And we need to save time and to focus our activities at home to fulfill the new goals and targets. We have 23 clear targets where we should focus our efforts. And Secretary has to support us for this, for all the meetings, And now to analyze all these programs is not an easy task and will require additional resources. Let's be conscious about what are we asking in order to be realistic. We can ask for many things. Everybody wants to go to the booth, but it's not possible. And I know Secretary is doing the best and also looking for resources to do it. Thank you so much. Now let's move to next document, which is document L6 on sustainable wildlife management. Therefore, I open the floor. Before I open the floor, I would like to remind you that we agreed to leave this document with brackets to be solved by the Conference of the Parties in paragraphs 4H, 4M, 5, 7, and 8. We also agreed to add women and in every mention of indigenous people and local communities. Therefore, document L6 is reflecting these changes, so I submit for adoption document L6. DRC, have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for giving me the floor. We understand that we require many resources to carry out this work. And by giving this work to the Secretariat, we are fully aware that this requires a great number of inputs, but whoever wants to make an omelette has to use eggs to do so. We're going back to the fact, Mr. Chairman, that we are deleting the fact that this is in line with the availability of resources. We have to find the resources for the Secretariat. In Montreal, we said that we should have a specialized fund for biodiversity under the responsibility of the Secretariat, but this was not agreed to. And so now the Secretariat is showing us that we do require such resources when we should make sure that we give the Secretariat the relevant resources and that we should do our best to provide the necessary funds to the Secretariat for this work. We're speaking about many different goals under Kunming Montreal's GBF.
Thank you, DRC. We should make our best efforts to support our Secretariat to keep serving us in the best way, certainly. Going back to document, so I would like to submit for adoption document L6 on sustainable wildlife management. I don't see any objection, then document L6 is adopted. DRC, asking again for the floor, is a mistake.
Oui, quand vous avez...
Yes, when you wanted to adopt this, I wanted to understand whether it's a matter of deleting the references in paragraph 5, 7, and 8 within this document, which make a reference to financial resources, particularly paragraph 5.
Of resources. Donc,
So I would like that to be deleted, subject to the availability of resources. Thank you.
The document is adopted with all these brackets, and this should be solved by the COP. So that's what we adopt, as it is, with all the brackets. Thank you. Now let's move to document 7 on scientific, technical, and technological inputs that should inform the global review of collective progress and implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. I would like to mention that this document has brackets on a number of paragraphs. There is one bracket in the chapeau brackets in one of the preambular paragraph, and in paragraph 1, 3, 6, and 13, there were a number of brackets on paragraph 6, and there is also 2 paragraphs with brackets. So I would like to submit this document for adoption. I see no request from the floor, so document L7 is adopted. Now let's consider document L8 on monitoring framework for the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So I submit for adoption document L8. Finland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are very happy with this document. Just one issue which we would like to note, that on paragraph 6, which was in the note before, that Finland thanks, of course, the co-chairs and the Secretariat and the contact group of the progress made. And with regard to para 6, we note that the following targets, it's targets 1, 6, 12, and 15, due to time constraints, were not discussed. We should like to note or recall this in the report, so we have a clear understanding that these 4 targets were not discussed. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. We note this particular precision. Norway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a minor comment. Referring to the annex in paragraph 2, the reference should be to Annex 2 of Decision 15/5, as that is the one containing the terms of reference for the outtake. Thank you.
Please, can you repeat the precision, because I didn't get it properly.
Thank you. So in paragraph 2, we are referring to subparagraphs 1A, minor 1, 2, 3 of the annex to Decision 15/5. And to be precise, we believe that it should be Annex 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it should be Annex 2 to the Decision 15/5. Number 2, before the word 2. Okay. So with this, I would like to submit document L8 for adoption. I see no request from the floor. Then document L8 is adopted with this minimal amendment. With this, we finish with documents L, and now I propose to address document CRP 8 on biodiversity and climate change. Then when we reach the paragraphs in question, last night I established a small group comprising Canada, Portugal, Colombia, Germany, Brazil, Malawi, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo to work on paragraphs 6 and 7, which are the parts referring to substam. And I would like to ask a representative of this group to give us an update of the outcomes of this group. So I give the floor to Malawi.
Thank you, Chair. Indeed, as you had established a small group yesterday, we met this morning from 8:30. And we had participation of Brazil, Canada, Colombia. Eswatini stood in for DRC, and Spain stood in for Portugal. We also had Germany and Malawi. The group worked on the brackets in paragraph 6 and paragraph 7, and also considered the various alternative texts that were in the CRP document with regards to those paragraphs. And we managed to develop compromise text for both paragraphs, and we hope that it will be adequate to move us forward. So I'll just read the text that we agreed to present this morning, starting with paragraph 6. So paragraph 6, the agreed paragraph stresses the importance of CBD national focal points, engaging with their UNFCCC counterparts, and of enhancing collaboration among CBD and UNFCCC parties to raise awareness on relevant interlinkages between biodiversity and climate change, to support relevant national planning processes in line with national commitments, circumstances, and priorities as appropriate. So that is the language for paragraph 6. With regards to paragraph 7, the agreed paragraph by the group is requests the Executive Secretary, when undertaking the comprehensive review and analysis of existing tools and guidance that can support elements of Target 8 and 11, and other aspects of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, in line with Substa Recommendation 25, So we are hoping that the Secretariat will be able to include the right reference, specifically the one dealing with the guidance for the program of work there, to include those developed under the CBD and assessment reports of IPBES and IPCC, taking note of the Resolution 5/5 of the United Nations Environment Assembly on Nature-Based Solution for Sustainable Development. So this, Chair, is what we worked on, and we hope it's adequate to move us forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malawi, and to the group. To make a proposal, I understand, is clean. It's a compromise to solve what we have on paragraphs 6 and 7. I hope this is acceptable. I give the floor to Secretariat, right? So he captured very well. Can we go along to adopt this new formulation? If there is any objection, please raise your hand. I don't see objections to this compromise. Guinea Equatorial.
Sí, muchas gracias.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. It's not an objection, but just a small concern. For example, one of the documents we've already approved is 7, and here we only have the English version of this new version of CRP 8. So for the understanding of all countries, I suggest that we have the text in all languages. Thank you.
Gracias, Guinea.
Thank you, Equatorial Guinea. I understand that the Secretariat is working on having this in all languages as quickly as possible. The only limitation is that we need to finish in just under 1 hour because the COP will continue. I hope there is understanding here on the restrictions faced by the Secretariat and translators in order to get all this out. You know, this was sent to them about midnight, along with other documents. So logistically, it's very difficult to have it so quickly in all languages, but I know they're working very hard to ensure that it is ready soon. So I thank you all for your flexibility and cooperation, because we do need to finish our work very soon. Argentina, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to call your attention to a potential editorial error in the document. So in CRP 8, in the second preambular paragraph, it seems there is a duplicated reference and footnote. I understand that in line with that which has been discussed, it should finish after the first reference and footnote, so after climate change. And then it would continue with the outcomes of the intergovernmental science policy, etc. Here it's repeated and should actually be deleted. Perhaps you could confirm if that's the case. Thank you.
Ya la Secretaría confirma que es un...
The Secretariat confirms that it's an editorial error and it will be corrected in the adopted document.
With these amendments and thanking the group that successfully reached a consensus on these two paragraphs, I was to submit for adoption, but I see UK.
Thank you, Chair, and we'd like to thank this small group for their collaborative work. We're very happy with this compromise. We just have a small editorial change in para 3 ahead of the assessment on spatial planning and connectivity. This should actually be methodological, not thematic, as that was what was agreed at IPBES 10. Thank you.
Thank you for the precision. So we should replace thematic, well, methodological by thematic assessment, right? The other way around. Oh, no, it says in the third line, it says a methodological assessment. A thematic by methodological. So can you repeat, because we have the expression of, on the third line?
We'll correct that title.
Okay, at the beginning of the third line, it should say methodological assessment on spatial planning and connectivity, and a methodological assessment on monitoring, right?
Thank you, Chair. In our version, we have thematic assessment, but if methodological is there, then that's correct, so we're happy. Thank you.
It will be as you said. Okay, so it's an amendment on paragraph 3, the new agreed paragraphs that the group agreed, the editorial precision. Those are the changes from today to this document CRP 8 on climate change. If there are no more amendments or suggestions, I submit document CRP 8 for adoption and then turn into an L document. I see no objection, then document CRP 8 is adopted as amended. Now, to follow with our procedures, this document as amended is now document L9, right, on climate change. Then this document L9, I would like to submit it for adoption by the plenary of Substa. I see no objection, then document L9 on climate change. I see Zwatini, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will just request a short period of time just to see the document, how it looks like when it's an L document before we can adopt it. Just a short period of time, Chair. Or we can even projected to the screen so that we see how it looks like, especially the latter part of the subsidiary recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
To address your requests and to be practical, what I propose is that Secretariat reads the changes on the document that we adopt, that is now L, but you know the practicalities to have a new document in this short time, so we can use the document we adopt. This practice has been used in the past due to the limitations of time. So in order to be sure how it looks, I can ask Secretariat to read amendments on the document so you can have a clear idea how document L looks. So I see a request from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Let me know if there is something against my way to proceed in order to save time so we can note exactly all changes to the document in order to be adopted. Please, DRC.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Chair. We understand that we have time constraints. At the same time, however, we have to remain faithful to our principles as a scientific body. We have to be consistent and logical. Therefore, we need to be very cautious to ensure we don't repeat mistakes from the past. I would ask that this document be first of all published on the platform so that we can see it as L9. At that time, we could then review it, Chair. So once again, we support the position set out by Eswatini. We need a little bit of time to see what the document which we want to review will look like. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, RDC. I was asking for your cooperation and full understanding that a document that is adopted, and when we have 1 hour to finish all our works, is really very challenging. I know that Secretariat is doing their best to publish it, so we'll require some minutes. Unfortunately, if we had a whole day, it won't be any problem, but I count with your indulgence to move on. Meanwhile, give me a second to go to other agenda items in between while we can have this document post. But please understand it's a very strong pressure to have edit and to publish a new document when we just adopt a few minutes ago. And I appreciate the efforts of the Secretariat to do this. Give me a second in order to decide how to continue. We still have more issues, like, for example, the new member of the Subsidiary Bureau, the substitute for the member from the GRULAC region for Nagoya Protocol to proceed with that nomination. But give me a second to make some changes in the way to proceed in the most efficient way to pending works. Sorry, and thank you for your patience. So while document L is being produced and posted, I invite you to go back to item 2 on election of officers. So you will recall that we elect by acclamation the members of the Bureau on Sunday afternoon to replace the members from Australia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Palau, St. Lucia, and the Seychelles. At that time, the subsidiary body elect Ms. Aria St. Louis from Grenada to replace the outgoing member of St. Lucia, with the understanding that a substitute for the Nagoya Protocol will be named later. The name of the substitute for the Nagoya Protocol for the Latin America and the Caribbean region was outstanding. Now I open the floor to the outstanding nomination from the Latin American and the Caribbean states. So I give the floor to St. Lucia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as you are aware, Grenada is not a party to the Nagoya Protocol. As such, the Latin American and the Caribbean states have identified a substitute in Mr. Francis Riaz from the Dominican Republic to accompany Grenada on the Subsidiary Bureau. Mr. Francis Riaz worked as a biodiversity technician in the Department of Genetics Resources and of the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources in the Dominican Republic. He's mainly involved with the control of exotic and invasive species, but as part of the department, he's also participated in the review and monitoring of projects relating to the convention and protocols to which the Dominican Republic is a signatory. In addition, he also is the president of a small NGO that works with early career scientists in the conservation and research projects. He conformed to the principle that the old adage that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, so therefore he has engaged in hobbies such as reading, bird watching, and learning new language. Mr. Chair, I present Mr. Francis Riaz as a substitute to the Nagoya Protocol on the Subsidiary Bureau, representing the Latin American and the Caribbean states. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, St. Lucia. So for the Latin American and Caribbean states, elect member Ms. Elected Ms. Aria St. Louis from Grenada will be substituted by Mr. Francis Reyes Polanco from the Dominican Republic for the Nagoya Protocol. If there are no objections, I may take that the subsidiary body wishes to elect Francis Reyes Polanco as a substitute. I see no objections, then it is so decided. Now I'll give the floor to Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, since the election held earlier in the week for our alternate representative or substitute representative, acknowledging our representative from Canada is not a party to the Cartagena or Nagoya protocols, our nominated representative is no longer available to fulfill this role, and so I offer an alternate substitute representative from our region, Dr. Jane Stratford from the United Kingdom. Both Mr. Scott Wilson and Dr. Jane Stratford have the full support of JOSCANTS from WEOG to fulfill these roles. Thank you.
So I know that the proposal for Australia is to replace Mr. Niklaus Wagner of Switzerland as a member from the WEO by Ms. Jane Stratford of UK.
Substitute.
A substitute, right? Australia?
Correct, but I would like to recognise it's Dr. Jane Stratford. Thank you.
So I hope that the election of Dr. Jane Stratford of UK as substitute for Canada on Nagoya Protocol is acceptable. I see no objections, so it's so decided. I know that in any minute the document L should be published.
We can do other matters, though. Other matters. We can do other matters. Or we can adopt it, it's fine.
Not yet. Meanwhile, we can proceed with the agenda item related to other matters. So I would like to know if there is any other matters proposed by parties. Thank you. I see Iraq followed by Colombia.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. For the sake of brevity and regarding other matters, it is very important to mention the importance of finding viable solutions or building national, local, and regional capacities for the issue of water scarcity resulting from the construction of dams in upstream countries and the impact on the downstream countries. I would like also to refer to the 6th National Report of the CBD of the Republic of Iraq. In this report, we mentioned that Iraq's ecosystems are exposed to many threats. These include climate change, water scarcity, and the deterioration of water quality. This has led to the deterioration of national and natural systems. They reduce the ability to provide basic ecosystem services and the loss and degradation of habitats as a result of the increasing deterioration of Iraqi rivers caused by the decrease in water flow due to the hydrological projects established by downstream countries. The construction of dams reduces the amount of water in the main river networks. It reduces the water flow to agri areas and the creeks. It increases desertification, which has now reached that areas that were once among the most fertile in the region. It has also led to the loss of species, and it led to the extinction of plant varieties, increased salinity, and also vulnerability of coastal areas. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Iraq. Now I'll give the floor to Colombia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of Colombia, we would like to mention under other matters and to have this considered the discussions that we've been had over this week. 8J, which will be considered later. The effective participation of indigenous peoples and local communities is very important. Understood in Colombia, this includes Negros and other groups and also local communities and farmers in all of the work that we set out for our mandate under CBD and the Kunming, Montreal's GBF and other fora related to the framework agreed by COP15. Secondly, it's important to strengthen the dialogue between SBSTTA and the other ways of implementation for 8J for the open-ended working group as a mechanism for dialogue amongst different cultures and the SBSTTA. Thirdly, we reiterate the importance of the indicators that are being constructed by IPLC, that is Indigenous Peoples and Local Communities, on traditional knowledge related to the monitoring framework. And these indicators are making sure that Indigenous languages are included and native languages are reincorporated, and making sure that traditional knowledge is included. And these indicators is very important to be considered in terms of sustainability for the planet and traditional activities for sustainable development, for biodiversity, and policies, programs that incorporate the protection of traditional knowledge. And in this regard, we also would like to see in SBSTTA-25 a working group on 8J. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Colombia, for this point being raised under other matters.
Sobre lo último,
I would like to recall that the experts group on indicators will receive the input from the 8J group, as well as from the working group on finance and mobilization of resources, so that it's possible to look at an exhaustive number of the inputs for the indicators themselves. We will await the deliberations of the next meeting in Geneva on the suggestions. As we look at the suggestions for the agenda for next Substa, I'd like to let you know that the agenda was already agreed to by the Bureau during the Kunming meeting in China, and this is an extremely complex agenda already. As one of the points that I wanted to highlight in detail during my closing remarks, because it is so extremely heavy, it will require a great deal of work. And we have so many decisions from COP which need to be decided upon. We've agreed on some of them now, but there are so many more as well which need to be agreed upon by May. The importance of this cannot be stressed enough. 8J is also super important, and the experts group will compile their work on this, and I'm sure we will have some excellent elements to be included. Thank you. Please just give me a moment here. Thank you.
I've been told that the document L is being posted, so I'm trying to refresh my computer. Let's wait a couple of minutes until this is published to recommend, but don't go too far.
No, don't go anywhere. Stay.
Actually, don't move, just wait. Yeah, I'd just like to remind that we finished the agenda item related to water matters. It's pending to address document the last L and then the closure of the meeting, hopefully. So it's posted, the document is posted and you can open it. I hope you have it. No, it's, hold on. All right. My computer don't like to open the document, but I'm using David's. So you can see the document L9 on biodiversity on climate change with the amendments we agreed minutes ago when we look at on its version on as a CRP document. So I would like to submit document L9 for adoption. I see no objections, then document L9 on biodiversity and climate change is adopted. So with this, I would like to proceed to item 9, adoption of the report. So we come to document L1, which is the draft report of the 25th meeting of SBSTA. The document was distributed, and I hope that all of you have a chance to read it. Now I invite the rapporteur, Mr. Bilal Bishtat from Jordan, to introduce the document. You have the floor.
شكرا. شكرا سيدي الرئيس. تحتوي الوثيقة سبستا.
This document, Substa, stroke 25, contains the summary of all of the statements given during the meeting and the issues relating to the organization of the meeting. I revised the report and have examined it. I found it to be accurate. I am submitting it, therefore, for adoption with the understanding that today's proceedings and approved changes will be incorporated in the final report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Bilal. Then I propose that we review the report page by page. So let's start with comments on page 1. I see no requests. Page 2. I see no requests from the floor. Page 3. I see no requests from the floor. Page 4. I see no requests from the floor. Page 5. No request. Page 6. DRC.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Page 6. We have highlighted the fact that there are some elements and targets which were not analysed, and we would like that to be included here. Thank you very much.
I'm going to give the floor to Secretariat on this matter. Please remind that there's also a section saying to be completed in that part. But Secretary, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As explained by the Chair, there are many parts as to be completed because the discussion that we had here in this morning was not yet reflected in the report. And we understand that the statement made by distinguished representative from DRC is referring to the statement by Finland, which is regarding the fact that the deliberation on indicator for certain group of targets were not addressed because due to the limited time. So we'll reflect that as was presented at the plenary this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'll give the floor to Sweden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We recall that we made an intervention on SBD in plenary, and we had some concerns today, and we would like to encourage the Secretariat to reflect the statements made in plenary in the report, as they are also reflected on the web page. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Secretary is noting it will be included. We were on page 5. Now on page 6. No more comments. Now on page 7, Finland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paras 47, where you refer to Miss Marina, Marina von Weissenberg, which is myself, I would appreciate if you could put Finland also after my name. Thank you.
Yes, Miss Marina von Weissenberg from Finland. And thank you very much for chairing, for being my co-chair. Okay, comments on page, no more on page 7, page 8. No comments. Page 9, Eswatini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On paragraph 78, we would like to have a statement that will highlight that some of the parties did not have that we had more parties, and some of the parties were not did not have the opportunity to put across their statements, especially when it comes to issues of biodiversity and climate change. Because you will remember, Chair, not every party was awarded the opportunity to read the statements, but we do understand that those statements were submitted to the Secretariat. So we would like that to be reflected in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Eswatini, but you are ahead of me. Where I was, because paragraph 78 is in page 10, and we were on page 9. But I hear no comments on page 9. Page 10, the comment that Eswatini just made. And on page 11, it's just a mention to adoption of the report and the closure of the meeting. So with these amendments, I submit document L1 for adoption. I see no more requests from the floor. Then document L1 on the report, draft report of the meeting is adopted. Now we move to item 10 on closure of the meeting. I have the pleasure to invite Mr. David Cooper, Acting Executive Secretary, to address the meeting. So David, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, dear Ezekiel. I want to start by thanking all of those that have helped ensure that we could work here these last few days. Of course, the interpreters for their excellent interpretation, but also their flexibility in dealing with changing schedules. Of course, all my colleagues in the staff, those responsible for the substantive work, the legal team, the registration team, the translators, the administrative and technical support. I'd also like to thank all of those working here in the complex, our colleagues from UNEP, including those from the legal team, the security service, cleaners, caterers, everyone that has helped us and ensure that we can work here, the unsung heroes of the meeting. I'd like to thank UNEP and I'd like to thank UNEP and UNON, the United Nations Office in Nairobi, for facilitating our work here, and many other activities taking place on the margins. Obviously, we would very much want to express our appreciation to Kenya and to Kenyans here for receiving us, as always, with such open arms and such big smiles. It's always wonderful to come back to Nairobi for these meetings. I would again like to thank the donors. And I apologize that I omitted one in the opening statement. So Japan, as well as those I mentioned, Australia, Austria, Canada, Finland, Germany, New Zealand, Sweden, Switzerland, Republic of Korea, and the United Kingdom. I'd like to thank all the Bureau members and all those that have been helping in chairing sessions, in co-chairing contact groups. Big thanks also to James and Maria Cecilia, our ATIC co-chairs. Big thanks also to all of those that gave presentations, invited speakers from IPBES, from the Global Partnership on Plant Conservation, and all of those that have contributed to the work here. I also want to thank, of course, all the delegates here from the parties, from other governments, and from all of our different constituencies, of course, indigenous peoples and local communities, women, youth, representatives of business, academic, and other civil society organizations and networks. And I think this is one of the strengths of this convention, that we have such open participation, engagement of various groups. We know this is essential. The Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework calls for a whole of government and a whole of society approach. It's very important that we have these voices here. Big thanks to Ezequiel Benitez Diaz of Mexico for his dedication, of course, over the life of the convention, but particularly over these past 5 years, servicing as Substa chair. I'm going to stand up. Yeah, so thank you, Ezequiel, for serving the convention and this scientific body so well. Your work also in linking to other scientific bodies, including IPBES. We've relied on your extensive knowledge and dedication, your commitment to science, your skills in facilitating these negotiations, without which I'm not sure how we'd have got through this week. And of course, above all, for your warmth, your sense of humor. It's really been a delight working with you. We'll look forward to continuing to work with you in other capacities as we go forward. Muchísimas gracias, Ezequiel. So, dear delegates, dear colleagues, you have achieved a lot this week. We've moved forward to develop the mechanisms, further develop the mechanisms approved and adopted at COP for monitoring implementation as we go forward, for reporting and reviewing implementation, and of course, in providing guidance to support implementation. And in doing this, we have, of course, tried hard to maintain and reflect the ambition that is in the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and ensure that we've got monitoring and planning and monitoring and reporting processes that are fit for purpose, and that we will be able to ensure that we have all the tools and guidance that we need to support implementation of the various targets and all of the elements of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Of course, there's a lot more work to be done on the road to SBSTTA-25 and COP16, but we've made important strides forward. I want to thank all delegates for their strong cooperation in this respect. We look upon, of course, and count upon the same spirit of cooperation in the resumed meetings of COP, which will start in a few hours' time, so that we can demonstrate again that this convention shows the value of multilateralism. We will have this evening an opportunity to celebrate the completion of the work here in Substa, hopefully to celebrate a smooth first part, at least, of the second part of COP15 and the related, and of MOP10 and MOP4. But we will also mark in the reception this evening the 20th anniversary of the entry into force of the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety, as well as the 13th anniversary just a few days ago of the Nagoya Kuala Lumpur Supplementary Protocol. So I look forward to, as long as we all behave very well this afternoon, look forward to the reception at 7 o'clock. It will be in the Index Finger Garden, which is close to the main entrance of the conference center here. Thank you again. Let me reiterate my thanks to Ji-Hun and the entire Secretariat team. Again, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for your closing remarks, dear David. Now is my time. I hope I can do it. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, dear participants, together we came to the end of this intense week, and we will be closing this meeting in a special manner, as David said, with the celebration of the 20th anniversary of the entry in force of the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. I remember because I was here on the signature, and then the entry in force 3 years after. Now is don't make numbers, not make figures on how old we are now. We were young by that time. And as I mentioned in the opening session, this is the first meeting of SBSTTA since the adoption of the Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and in my third meeting serving as the chair of SBSTTA. It's been all a privilege to serve you in this capacity. It's been a long journey, but at the same time, it's been very rewarding. It's been 5 years from Sharm el-Sheikh to Montreal to Geneva and to here in Nairobi, dealing with SBSTTA matters. I'm glad to see all the advancements that we have made so far, particularly at this meeting, where significant progress was made in terms of providing scientific, technical, and technological tools to guide parties on the implementation of the framework. To achieve this, the collaboration of the Global Partnership of Plant Conservation was instrumental and highly appreciated. Another example is the endorsement of the elements of the voluntary guidance developed on the basis of the work of the ad hoc technical expert group on invasive alien species for the implementation on Target 6 and other related targets. I would also like to acknowledge the hard work of the ad hoc technical expert group on indicators for the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which is well on its way to completing its mandate. Even we're putting more and more work on them. We cannot forget the assessments developed by IPBES and the strong participation of parties in the workshop that immediately preceded this meeting here. And at that workshop, the presentations delivered each of the co-chairs provided high level of scientific knowledge on the invasive species, the sustainable use of wild species, and the diverse values and valuation of nature. The respective draft recommendations are closely connected to the implementation of the framework, and all these examples reinforce the importance of the work of our partners through this journey that demonstrate that our partners are eager and dedicated to supporting the implementation of the framework. We have multiple external sources of information such as IPBES, IPCC, GBIF, that are producing scientific and technical knowledge to support parties and the work of these subsidiary bodies. In addition, we have other stakeholders' initiatives, activities, and reports such as the Plant Conservation Report and the Local Biodiversity Outlooks, which provide us with valuable contributions. So I'm very happy to see that it's not only delegates, there are many stakeholders that every time they express their voice more and more and contribute. I hope that we can keep this momentum and successfully conclude our work for consideration in COP16. When I try in English for not to get sentimental. All right, SBSTTA-25 agenda is very packed, as I said before, and allow me to echo Mr. Peter Shai, chair of SBSTTA-2, when he said SBSTA is not a mini COP. We should keep trying not to be a mini COP. With this in mind, let's avoid political matters and concentrate our efforts in delivering what is under our mandate. We will continue with some items, but we'll also have many other substantive matters such as synthetic biology, risk assessment, risk management, biodiversity and health, marine and coastal biodiversity, and others. SBSTTA-26 will take place over 6 days in May, and it will be very challenging. Let's move forward and proceed to adopt recommendations rather than delaying processes. To be able to accomplish our task, we will need to put in place maybe pre-SBSTA science-based consultations to help parties to build national positions. The example of what we have with the workshop on EBS is a good initiative, but we should do, as soon as precision documents are published, I invite you to have consultations in your regions with other stakeholders to help and to prepare more focused interventions and go straight to the technical matters. I believe this can be a way to prepare better delegations and to get more benefit of the precious time we have in our meetings. So, distinguished delegates, during deliberations, we need a common denominator, where we reach to a common denominator of consensus, and we need high ambition, discipline, and commitment to do better our job. COP15 recognized the need for a new strategy to implement the convention and its protocols. The Secretary received clear guidance on the undertaking on analysis and streamlining the work by strategically prioritizing support to parties of the conventions. I wish to thank all co-chairs of the contact groups of and the SBSTA Bureau members, including Ms. Maria von Weizsäcker from Finland, who ably chair our discussions on item 4 for their active interactions and participations. Despite all the pressure we had, we were able to deliver and also have fun with my colleagues at the same time in the SBSTA Bureau. We have truly enjoyed working with you all, so thank you so much, thank you all. Thanks for the valuable guidance, and I would like to welcome the new Bureau members to take over this important task. My special thanks to the Acting Executive Secretary and the Secretary of CBD, Jijun, and all the team for the hard work and dedication. Thanks to all delegates and observers for the active and meaningful participation. As a result, we can recognize that thanks to our collective hard work, we are fulfilling our mandate as determined by COP15. The outcomes of SBSTTA-25 will contribute to SBSTA-26 as well as to SBI-3. Now, from now until next SBSTA, I invite you all to keep the good momentum and focus on our important task, which is to provide with scientific and technological guidance to move from agreement into action. I wish you a safe trip back home, and let's continue the good work. Thank you very much. And with this, the 25th meeting of the SBSTA is closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to note that we may need to do some resetting of the room, so please don't leave anything in the room over lunch. We will reopen or resume COP15 at 3:30. Please be on time so that we can be sure that we can have the people we need in the room to proceed. I really beg your cooperation. Thank you. And since we need to restart, we need to refigure the room, I invite you to proceed to your lunch promptly so you also don't get hungry. Thank you.
Richard, hizi hazijachukua.
Jawabi?